The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today to get a sneak peek into WorkPlace 2018. We're going to show you some great features and functionality. If you do have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to put them in the questions pane and we'll get to them at the end. But now I'm going to hand it over to Foy, who's going to take it from here and show you WorkPlace 2018.
All right, thanks, Amy. We appreciate it. So, hello, everyone. My name is Foy Maynor, and I'm going to be walking you through the new features and functionality that are available with WorkPlace 2018. So, we're going to touch on some highlights of that particular release and show you some of the new features. There's certainly a lot of other features kind of behind the scenes that can be involved as far as setup, maintenance, and or configuration. So we're going to touch on the ones that certainly are more exposed to the user as they view and look at the software or use the software. If you need more in-depth demonstrations to take a deeper dive into WorkPlace, please feel free to let us know, and we're certainly glad to schedule that and walk through more a day in the life of a requisition through approval, creation of a PO, receiving, invoice matching, and then also the expense or AP automation process. So for today, we're going to spend about 30 minutes focusing again on the new features that are available within WorkPlace 2018. I'll do a brief introduction from a Paramount standpoint, walk through just a few PowerPoint slides, and then jump right into the product. So Paramount's been in business since 1995. So for more than 23 years, we've been doing spend management solutions, which to us now involves requisition and procurement, expense management, AP automation, as well as project timesheet. So we started off on the requisition and procurement side, and then have added additional functionality revolving around that spend throughout the years based both upon customer request and what we've seen as far as needs in the market. We're headquartered in metropolitan Detroit. That's where our support, quality assurance, development, administration, and some sales support resides. And then we also have other employees as well as consultants, mostly from a sales side around the US and also in Canada. And again, today we're going to focus on the new features for the different solutions that we offer. We will touch on both mobile and web-based components of those solutions. So from a Paramount WorkPlace standpoint, we certainly do offer a software as a service or cloud-based solution. We can also be hosted by a third party, and we do also offer on-premise deployment. So however the customer or you decide to be deployed, we can certainly handle that. There are going to be some potential different options depending upon what solution you use with your ERP. We have those listed on the right-hand side of the screen. So certainly if there are any questions about deployment, certainly reach out to us and we'll ask a few questions to be able to determine what may be best for your organization. It is a web-based solution and has out-of-the-box integration to many different mid-market ERP solutions. It is a global or worldwide solution, so we do offer multiple currency as well as multi-language capability. As noted, we are doing the WorkPlace 2018 features and functions today, so we do annual releases with major pieces of functionality, and the overall idea is that you can access the application anytime, anywhere, with multiple browsers, multiple mobile devices, and it gives visibility throughout the entire process and allows users to easily enter, approve, review transactions to keep the process moving. And because of the different methods of being able to access the application, we do offer multiple authentication modes for the product as well to make sure that it is secure. So we're going to start off and just look at a few PowerPoint slides, and then again, I'm going to get into the product here in just a minute. One of the major changes with WorkPlace 2018 is an updated user interface. So for those of you on the call that are familiar with WorkPlace, it's going to look a good bit different. for those of you who may not have seen WorkPlace before or have limited access to the application, then just need to understand that we spent a good bit of time and effort to modernize the look and feel as well as the navigation of the product. We added type to search in the different lookup boxes, which is a really nice feature from our side, especially to someone like myself who does a lot of demos, and certainly somebody who is using the product on a day-to-day basis to be able to quickly and easily find the information that they're looking for. We also streamlined the menus so that they are easier to access and more identifiable, and gave ourselves a little bit more room on the screen for additional information and additional details where needed. And we also changed some of the layouts as well as the look and feel of the menus. Again, all designed to increase the efficiency of the flow of not only working with the application on a day-to-day basis, but also setting up the application from routing rules to departments to users and security. So a good bit of the WorkPlace 2018 does revolve around, again, the user interface. Also, a key component is we significantly expanded the metrics that we offer within the WorkPlace application. We now offer over 10 out-of-the-box requisition and procurement metrics. We also have metrics for expense as well as AP automation, and then also the timesheets. We've added a couple of new chart types, and these metrics are fully customizable along with our reports, so that with our dashboard and metrics reports engine, you can add your own metrics, add your own reports to be able to allow users to see information in a little bit of a different format rather than just the words on a report. So again, this is highly configurable by you or by the customer to be able to gather the information and have that available to the user. And again, it is secured for the user as well, so they're only going to be able to see what you allow them to see. We've also got invoice capture using OCR functionality for both the check request, which is a non-PO invoice, as well as PO matching with the invoices there. So we're able to capture the data at both the invoice level or header level, as well as the line level. And it does have a powerful machine learning component, so that as you receive the invoices from the vendor and indicate where the information is on the invoice, it'll learn where that information is and then ultimately get better and better at recognizing and populating those fields, again, either for the check request or for the invoice that needs to be matched to the PO. We can populate the invoice capture queue in several different ways. You can certainly drag or drop the files there. You can also email the invoices, or the vendor can email the invoices to a particular email box and have those populated. And you can also use FTP file transfer. No matter how you get the information into the queue, an agent will monitor the queue, identify any corrections that need to be made, and then inform you as a user that you need to make those corrections before the transaction can then be created over in WorkPlace. And we do offer the OCR solution from Paramount, but we also have integrated to other third-party OCR solutions as well. So if you do already have an OCR solution and want to leverage the functionality of Paramount WorkPlace for check request, for invoice matching to POs, so that you can have the routing that we offer, then we can certainly integrate to other OCR solutions as well. There are also some mobile enhancements as a part of this release. One of those is that we added the Google Maps integration to mobile. We've had Google Maps for the browser-based expense sheets for quite a while, so that you can enter the different waypoints and have those calculate the mileage for you. That is now available on the mobile app when you come in to create your expense lines. We also have added attachments on the mobile app. Attachments are a key component of the overall WorkPlace functionality. We've also always had very robust capabilities to be able to add and view the attachments throughout the entire process, and we just simply extended that to the mobile approval. So if you're approving transactions via your mobile device, you can now see those attachments. And we've also added mobile requisition entry. We've had the ability to be able to enter requisitions on the mobile device via catalogs. This added the on-the-go or manual entry of a requisition to the mobile device. And you can also submit both non-catalog or manually entered transactions as well as catalog items together into the same shopping cart. And finally, we've also added payments to the Paramount WorkPlace solution. For most of our customers, as well as partners that we talk to, this may not be applicable. This tends to be more applicable in a standalone platform where WorkPlace is the system of record for the entire procurement process and is not necessarily integrated to a back office or ERP solution. Just so you know, when we're typically integrated to an ERP solution, we use the payment functionality there. But this is an option that we now offer in regards to the WorkPlace 2018. So I certainly did want to include that there. And with that, we'll jump over to our screen and we'll take a look at some of the things that I just talked about. So I'm going to log in as a user who has the ability to do the different functionality that we talked about as we walk through those slides. So the first thing you're going to see is an intuitive dashboard and one of the metrics that I mentioned. So as soon as the user logs in, they're going to be able to see and look at other metrics that they have been allowed to have access to. They're going to be able to see their outstanding transactions, where they are in the process, what has happened to them, what needs to happen to them, and also be able to see any catalogs that they have access to and the ability to shop. So for those of you who have seen WorkPlace before, a little bit different look and feel, some of the same functionality that we've had there before, but it's certainly going to look different for those of you that are familiar with this particular application. There's also quite a few other metrics that are available. So these are the ones that come out of the box, so you can see them here on the screen. There's also a menu over here that offers other metrics so that you can be able to show those and have those on the screen. So you can certainly see that we attempted to offer many different types of views as well as graphs for that information. And again, it's very simple and straightforward to add additional metrics with our dashboard metrics and report engine to be able to add your own and then have those available here. And you can also, again, define these metrics by user. So a user is only going to be able to have access to the ones that you allow them to be able to have access to. So if we come back to our home page, I'm going to come here to our requisition and requisition entry tab and just show a couple of the features there on the interface. Here is the new look and feel for this particular screen. You can see that the buttons have been moved up to the top here on the right hand side to allow us more real estate on the screen, as well as down below here. We've also added additional information so that you can see some of the line details right there next to the line as far as the different functions that are available and the information for that particular requisition. And then, as I mentioned, we also do the type to search. So any of the Zoom fields now have type to search that will look at both the item and item description. So as you begin typing here, it will then narrow down that search, and then you could make that selection. You still have the lookup. You can always do a more detailed lookup for the items, for the locations, the vendors, the GL account codes that are there. But again, that's going to make it a little bit easier here on the screen. And always remember that any of these lookups can be restricted. A user is only going to be able to see, access, and search for the information that you've allowed them to based upon their setup within WorkPlace security and what they're allowed to get to when they come in to be able to enter the information. So just a little bit about some of the new look and feel of the application as it regards to the user interface. So we're going to move on to the invoice capture functionality now. I'm going to go to accounts payable. I'm going to go to my invoice capture queue. And this is the capture queue where you can drag and drop files, where if any files are emailed in, they will appear. And if any are used with the FTP file transfer, they'll show up here too. So an agent will monitor this. So I'm going to drag and drop files just for the purposes of the demo today. You'll see that those get uploaded. And then once those get uploaded, then they'll be read by the OCR information that is there. So it's going to read that particular invoice, and then it will let us know if there are any corrections that need to be made. So again, the agent runs in the background. You do not need to sit here and monitor or watch this queue. You'll be notified via email. You could also have a metric that was created to be able to show you when something exists in the queue that you need to have access to, but that agent will run and then identify any corrections that need to be made. I can also click on the refresh button up here in the upper right hand corner, which is what I'll do for demo purposes, so that we can have an invoice process through here. And when I click on refresh, it will now indicate that it is processing, and it will show me that I do need to make corrections. So as the OCR functionality read that particular invoice, there were some details that it could not identify or find. So we'll click on make corrections. When we click on make corrections, it will now open up the OCR screen here, and we're just going to go indicate where that information can be found. So it didn't find the vendor name, so we'll go show it where the vendor name is on that particular invoice. It also was looking for an invoice number. Now this particular cable bill doesn't have an invoice number, so we could use the billing.
Hey, boy. Oh, never mind. I think your screen was a little delayed. It just showed up now. So.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, thank you, Amy. No problem. I'll slow up just a little bit in case there's some delay there. So just let everybody kind of get caught up here, and we'll see. So, all right. So we're going to then identify the invoice number, and then there were some additional details that it wanted to be able to find as well. You can always come back up here to the reject notes and be able to see what it did not find. Once you've made those corrections, then you can click on the save button down there at the bottom. And as long as you made all of the corrections that it was looking for, it will now process that and create a transaction over in the WorkPlace application. So in this particular instance, it's going to create a check request. As soon as this finishes, I'll be able to go back to my dashboard here. But first, you'll notice that the queue is now blank. There's nothing sitting in the queue. But again, if I go back to my main dashboard, that is now a check request number 147 that is waiting for approval. So it pulled the information from that check request, took the corrections that we made, created a non-PO invoice transaction here with the line information with the attachment, and it has now submitted that for approval. If you need to make corrections, you can make corrections during the approval process. If you need to add information, you can do that as well, and you can continue to route for approval based upon the details that have been entered on the transaction before it can be processed to be paid over in the ERP system. And again, that would be if you dragged or dropped or sent anything into that invoice capture queue. As I mentioned, you can also email an invoice. So this one happens to be an invoice for a purchase order. I've already got the purchase order created. The vendor was notified that the purchase order was created and is available for invoicing. The vendor has an email address that we've provided them where they can then email the invoices. So if I click on send, we're now going to send that invoice. And if we go back into our accounts payable invoice capture queue here, I'll hit refresh once or twice. And when I hit refresh, ultimately it's going to see and find that document from the email, and it will populate that there in the queue. So it'll go out and again, constantly monitor the queue, find any invoices from however we may have entered them, and then let us know when we need to be able to make corrections. The process for matching to a PO is very similar to what we just did on the non-PO or check request side, except obviously the transaction is different. You're going to create a transaction that is then going to be matched to a purchase order. And you can see there's our email of that particular invoice. It'll continue to monitor that, process it. If it finds anything that is wrong or that it cannot identify on that particular invoice, it will then make us aware of that and we can make those corrections. But if it is able to read everything correctly and populate all of the fields, then it will be able to move through and it'll create a transaction that will then be an invoice matched to a PO. So we'll let this process finish here for just a moment, and you'll see that the line is now blank. It read everything properly. Go back over to our dashboard here, and then there's the transaction that was just created there. So you're able to see that. It is waiting for approval. Same thing as the check request that we saw before. If you need to add or edit any information, you can during the approval process, and it will still make sure that it routes for approval based upon those details that have been entered there. So we'll now log out. I'll go open up my emulator here for mobile, and we'll spend the last few minutes here on the mobile functionality that has been added. So one of the first things that we can look at is the ability to add an item. So when I click on add item, I'll just come in here and put in a description of the item. How many of those do we want? What is the cost of that? And then you can also put in other fields like expense type. You can identify the expense type for that item. If you know the vendor, you can identify the vendor for that item. And if you're integrated to a project solution, you could identify any of the project fields as well as an internal comment field. And we can say this is for the new office, and then that can populate there. You can also attach files here as well. So you'd be able to go out and attach any files. If it's on your mobile device, you'd be able to take a picture and use that picture if you wanted to be able to attach it here. And in my particular instance for the demo today, I'm just going to go grab a file and drag and drop it so that that is now attached. You see that I attached a picture there, and that is now a part of that requisition that we would then be able to submit, and that is now a line on that requisition that has been added to my cart. You've still got the ability to shop the catalogs via the mobile device, and you could add items with the catalogs as well. That's not new on WorkPlace 2018. That's been available, so I won't go into that on this particular demo today, but again, we can always walk through that as needed. I'm going to click on entry at the bottom of the screen here, and we're going to go click on add expense, and I'm going to show you the Google Map integration. So let's just say that this is mileage to and from the airport, and it's an expense type of mileage. There's a little graphic up here that we can click on that is now going to allow us to add our route. So I can come up here, I can indicate where I started. I can then also indicate where I went. And then I'd be able to put that information in there. And then I can also provide additional waypoints. I can subtract any commutes that I may not get reimbursed for. And then I can click on calculate. And when I click on calculate, it'll show me that route. Once it shows you that route, you can then add that to the expense line. You could do any attachments if you needed to here as well. And that is now an available expense line that can then be submitted there. And then from an approval standpoint, if I click here on approvals, you now have the attachments that are available with the approval. So if I go to a requisition that I need to approve, I can now click there, go look, and then there are those attachments. So that is the mobile application. I'll go back here to my main home screen and just simply remind everybody that the mobile access and the mobile functionality will work with both Apple and Android devices. You have the ability to enter requisitions, approve requisitions, and view history of requisitions on your mobile device. You can also, as we did, enter free form items on the requisition or use the catalogs. We also have the expense functionality with OCR available, so you can use a picture of the receipt to scan the information, populate the expense line, add that there. You can also submit as well as approve expense sheets, and then you also have the ability to add time. Again, a good bit of that's been available for quite some time, but those are some of the new features that we just showed that are a part of the overall WorkPlace functionality. And with that, I will allow Amy or myself to see if there's any questions that we can answer. And then once we answer those questions, we do have a poll question at the very end that we'd like everybody to hang out for. But we'll go see if there's any questions that we can answer before we do that.
There is a couple of questions.
Okay. Let me see here. When there's a chance for questions, what is the commission level opportunity for resellers? So what I'm going to ask you to do is, from a reseller standpoint, I'll ask you to contact us directly for that. Everybody should have Amy's contact information or Darcy's contact information. Please reach out to them. This is a generic webinar for both customers and partners potentially that would be able to see this. So we can certainly handle those discussions one-off if that's okay. And let's see here. Yes, there is a vendor portal that we offer. The vendor portal, again, is not new with WorkPlace 2018. The vendor portal's been around for a while. With the vendor portal, you do have the ability for vendors to be able to log in and enter their invoices. So they can certainly enter the invoices via the portal. If they do that, then they would also populate or be available over in the WorkPlace application. With the vendor portal, there's also some self-service where you can edit or change information that's available as well, as far as the contacts and the addresses there. And then the vendor portal also enhances our RFQ functionality. So you'd be able to have the vendor portal or access to the vendor portal allow a vendor to reply to an RFQ. So yes, there certainly is a vendor portal that's available. Again, not something new. So if you'd like an individual demo on that, we can certainly schedule that as well. And Amy, I think I got all the questions. My window's a little bit small here on my screen, but if I missed one, let me know.
Okay, I'm going to launch the poll, but I don't see any other questions right now.
Okay.
I'm going to try to launch the poll. Okay. So if you'd like to schedule a training for your team on these new features and functionality as well as a day in the life, like Foy had mentioned, we certainly can schedule that with you. Just let us know.
Okay, so we ended a little bit before our 30 minutes. We'll certainly give it a little bit of time here. If anybody wants to stay on and ask questions, I'll continue to monitor the question box and answer those. But thank you very much for your time today. It is greatly appreciated. And if there's anything that we can do to assist to get you more information, please let me know. Or Amy or Darcy.
Okay. Well, I think that's a wrap. Thank you, everyone, again for joining. We will be sending out the recording of this as well, and if you'd like it, we'd be happy to send that to you. Just let, again, me, Amy, or Darcy know, and we'll be happy to send that over. And again, if you have any questions in the future or need any additional information, would like to learn more about our solutions and how we can help, you can feel free to reach out to us at any time. Thank you so much for joining us today, and happy holidays and happy New Year.